Penguin Random House Audio presents Doomed Romance, Broken Hearts, Lost Souls, and Sexual Tumult in 19th-Century America by Christine Leigh Heyrman. Read for you by Maggie-Meg Reed. For Annie. Dramatis Personae. The Triangle. Martha Parker, a teacher. Thomas Tenney, a teacher training for the ministry. Elnathan Gridley, a minister preparing for the mission field. The Parker family. Anne Parker Bird, the eldest sister, a teacher, and with her husband Isaac Bird, a member of the Palestine mission in Ottoman Syria. Emily Parker Kimball, the second eldest sister, a teacher and the wife of James Kimball, a minister in Vermont and friend of Elnathan Gridley. William Parker, their younger brother, a student at Dartmouth College. Martha Tenney Parker Mills, the family matriarch, widow of Captain William Parker, remarried to Lieutenant Thomas Mills. Martha Parker's other connections. Abigail Hasseltine, the preceptress of Bradford Academy. William Gould and Charlotte Gage Gould, Martha's employers at a school in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. Walter Harris, the minister in Dunbarton, New Hampshire. Thomas Tenney's circle. Sarah Tenney, Thomas's sister and fellow teacher at Moore's Charity School in Hanover, New Hampshire. Elisha Jenny, a student at Dartmouth College and the son of a Fairhaven, Massachusetts merchant. Silas Aiken, a tutor at Dartmouth College and the son of a New Hampshire farmer. Bennett Tyler, the president of Dartmouth College. Prominent evangelicals. Jeremiah Everts, a lawyer who headed the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions. Rufus Anderson, Everts's subordinate and later his successor. Leonard Woods, a professor at Andover Theological Seminary and mentor to Elnathan Gridley. Catherine Beecher, an educator and author, the eldest daughter of Lyman Beecher, an evangelical leader in the early Republic. Charles Finney, a famed evangelical revivalist who allowed women to take active roles at his worship services. Other American missionaries in the Ottoman Empire and on Malta. Abigail Davis Goodall and William Goodall. Pliny Fisk and Levi Parsons. Eli Smith. Daniel Temple. Introduction. Years spent in the company of high-minded people have given me a taste for low gossip, and that's how this book began. Research for another project had me reading the letters of early 19th century missionaries scattered throughout the Ottoman Empire, a correspondence among pious Yankees set on saving the world. But into those earnest pages occasionally strayed bits of news about a romantic triangle back in New England. At its apex was a gifted young schoolteacher, Martha Parker. At its two other points were Thomas Tenney, an intense striver who kept school while studying for the ministry, and Elnathan Gridley, a clergyman and accomplished charmer who aspired to become a missionary. Both men hoped to marry her, and she, at different times, accepted proposals from each. My snooping turned up just enough to tantalize, but the possibility of finding out more about this story of love and loss, romance and rivalry in the early 19th century seemed slim to none. That's what makes 200-year-old tales of heartbreak so intriguing. Private lives were much more private then. For centuries, Stoicism served as the default mode for nearly everyone in the Western world, ordinary people especially. The harder life was, the more crucial to hold emotion in check. Sometimes survival itself demanded restraint, even hiding the heart's desire. By the 1820s, when her suitors vied to win Martha Parker, some women and men had begun to give freer voice to their feelings, but most letters and diaries still withheld more than they revealed. The notable exception to that reticence was religion, a subject about which some could not divulge enough. By contrast, the intimate matters of flirtation, courtship, engagement, and above all, sex, received terse and even cryptic coverage. That made missionaries' gossip stick in my mind. There it stayed until several years later, when I came across a reference to an archival collection titled Papers Relating to the Case of Martha T. Parker and Elnathan Gridley, 1825 to 1828. There they were again, that pretty pair of 20-somethings in pursuit of their dreams until, thanks to Thomas Tenney and his allies, the stars crossed. Most likely, I guessed, these so-called papers would amount to no more than a couple of letters, yet more testimony to the era's entrenched reserve. That expectation lasted until the moment that an archivist approached my table at the library and set down a very large box. Within lay hundreds of loose pages, along with a bound volume containing a transcription of the whole lot in a neat clerk's hand. There were letters, first-hand accounts of events, and a long narrative summary, all setting forth the thoughts, feelings, and actions of Martha Parker, the men who courted her, and the wide circle of their friends and relatives. Here was a window onto the past that rarely opened, an intimate view of the inner lives of young Americans who were, like most of their white contemporaries in the North, rural in their origins, middling in their means, and deeply religious. The secrets kept close by most of their contemporaries spilled out of these pages, and the women and men making those disclosures, their personalities and the plots of their lives, staked a claim on my imagination. Perhaps most intriguing was the mix of desire and fear that this young woman aroused in many of her male admirers, a potent combination which, then as now, could produce explosive consequences. For anyone curious about the lost emotional worlds of the past, this box was missing only a ribbon and a bow. Who had made this gift to the present? That was the easy question to answer. The unlikely collector of all those documents, as well as the author of the long narrative drawn from them, was one Jeremiah Evarts, Esquire. Trained as a lawyer, he brought those skills to building the main organization sponsoring evangelical Protestant missions, the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions, into the largest corporation in the early republic. An organizational dynamo, he managed agents throughout the United States who established local missionary societies and drummed up donations. A fundraising genius, he invented the direct mail campaign. He also kept up a correspondence with scores of missionaries scattered through India, Sri Lanka, Hawaii, the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and the Indian nations of the American South. By the 1820s, he had thrown himself into a campaign protesting the forced removal of native people west of the Mississippi River. Harder questions followed. Why had Evarts compiled so full and careful an account of his findings about a romantic triangle? Consumed by business and travel, often hobbled by poor health, he devoted little time even to his own family. It seemed out of character, his prying into other people's love lives, conducting a long investigation, and then investing hours in composing a narrative. What made him so intent on mastering every detail about the progress of courtships, the promises made and broken, and the passions of the flesh and the spirit among these three? About his view of the inquiry's importance, Evarts left no doubt, declaring that no case has occurred respecting which we have been more desirous that every word which we write and every feeling which we indulge should be such
Sample complete. Ready to continue?